Hi guys, it's your host IowaSteeler here. It's been a little while since I've done a podcast for you guys. Had some stuff going on in my life, busy with work, that kind of thing. Haven't had a lot of time to dedicate to sitting down to do one of these podcasts. I actually take a little bit more work than I think most would anticipate. It's not just simply recording audio. It's a whole bunch of work, a lot of editing and everything else. But anyways, no excuses. I wanted to talk about some Steelers football today. Obviously, right now, things for Steelers Nation is, things are not going well. Pretty miserable right now to be a Steelers fan. My confidence in the team is shaky at best. Kind of start by talking about last week's game, not last weekend's, but the weekend before when we played the Baltimore Ravens. That was one of the worst games I've ever watched. I mean, I think they rushed Ben back a week early. Doesn't surprise me because this is something that the Steelers have done, and he has a well-noted history of playing poorly coming back from injuries in his first game back from an injury. I think they need to learn from that history, and when he gets hurt, and especially something as volatile as a meniscus tear, they need to sit him down for an extra week and make sure that he's okay, he's good to go. Give him some reps in practice, but honestly, in that game, I would have rather seen Landry Jones under center to start the game. And that might sound crazy, but Ben looked that bad. He literally looked that bad through 3.5 quarters of football. Now, saying that, I do think the coaches are to blame for some of the woes in that game. I watched the whole game beginning to end. It was painful. We couldn't do anything. Todd Haley has some blame in that game, in my opinion, and here's why. The offense was abysmal. Play calling was not helping out Ben Roethlisberger or Le'Veon Bell or anybody else on offense. They were trying way too hard to establish the run in that game. The Ravens, I think at the time, were the 4th best run defense in the NFL. You're probably not going to run the ball on them. We've had a tough time running the ball as is, even with Le'Veon Bell being our running back. So I think coming out against that Ravens defensive front 7 and trying to establish the run was a bad idea. I think the game plan should have been to open up the run game with a passing attack. They should have came out right from the gates, been up-tempo, hit the Ravens, challenge their secondary, because the Ravens secondary is not very good. They're one of the worst teams in the league. I couldn't tell you exactly what rank they are as far as pass defense, but I know they're not one of the better teams. Everybody that's been beating them has been beating them by throwing the football. They have a leaky secondary, kind of like our own, and I think that Todd Haley should have exploited that. And they didn't. They tried to run the ball too much. They kept trying to force it, and it was just wasted plays. I mean, I think it was like a ridiculous statistic in that game how many times we punted the football. I mean, it was ridiculous. Like the first, I don't even know how many possessions. It was punt, 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 And it's like, come on. Like, when are you going to figure out that running the ball on 1st and 2nd down isn't working? Like, I know you have Le'Veon Bell. I know you're trying to get one of your best players the ball, but we also have Antonio Brown. We got guys like Antonio Brown. We have Eli Rogers. We have Kobe Hamilton who can make a play here and there. Sammy Coates not being healthy is definitely hurting this team. But we still got some pretty good receivers, and we didn't really utilize the tight ends too much either. I mean, Jesse James, David Johnson, Xavier Grimble, not really getting used at all in that game. It was pretty much trying to force the run, and they didn't figure out until it was already too late that they needed to throw the ball. They waited till halfway through the 4th quarter to try and throw the ball, put up 14 points, and ultimately the score of the game looked so much closer than it actually should have been. Like, the way we played, we should have gotten completely stomped, and it was sad because the defense actually showed up that week. The defense showed up. They played a damn good football game. I think it was probably the best pass rushing game I've seen from the defense this year. They got after Joe Flacco. They were in his face. They were hitting him. They didn't get a ton of sacks, but they were causing those pressures, and Joe Flacco was not comfortable. Usually when you see that happen, when you see that Steelers defense do that to Joe Flacco, we're winning the football game. But the offense was abysmal, and it's honestly, this team is so frustrating to watch. You have the offense, who I call the magicians, because they can, make themselves disappear at any time and then reappear at another. Like one game, they're completely non-existent. The next game, they're outlandish. Perfect example would be like the Chiefs game. We throw up 43 points or whatever on one of the better defenses in the league. Defenses that probably has some better pass rushers on it in Tom Bahali and, guys like that, and Dontari Poe. The Chiefs defense is nothing to shake a finger at, and we hung up 43 points on them. That's what happens when this offense fires on all cylinders, when the magicians are actually showing up, making themselves reappear, as I said. But then you have the exact opposite. You have games like the Ravens game where they're non-existent. They're a non-factor. And then you have the defense. And I call the defense Charmin Ultra Soft because they're ultra soft. I mean, some weeks the defense will show up and they'll play a halfway decent game, but they're way too damn soft. Way too damn soft. These guys cannot stop the run. They cannot stop the pass. I mean, the whole point of this defense, I'm reading and from what I'm watching, is supposed to be bend don't break. And believe me, I know a lot about bend don't break defenses. I'm an Iowa Hawkeyes fan. That's been our defensive scheme for years and years. Bend don't break. Keep everything in front of you. Don't let the defense or the opposing offenses make big plays. The Steelers have been kind of running a similar scheme, and it's supposed to be bend, don't break, but really it's bend and break. Too many big plays being given up. And you saw that in the Ravens game. The 90-yard or 95-yard pass or whatever to Mike Wallace. It was like just a basic short underneath passing play that Mike Wallace turned into a touchdown, which is, of course, great. Because as Steelers fans, we want to see Mike Wallace have success against our team. Dude's a one-trick pony still. I still think he's not that great of a player. He's got speed and he can run go routes and whatnot, but I really don't think he's that good. He didn't earn his money in Minnesota or in Miami and wherever else he was. I don't really care about Mike Wallace. I've never cared for the guy. I've always thought he was kind of a diva and a guy that takes plays off. So it annoyed me greatly to see that guy get a 95-yard touchdown against our defense. But it goes into that point. They're giving up big plays. When you're giving up big plays, you're not a good defense. We have no pass rush. We're supposed to be playing this safe defensive scheme that minimizes the big plays, and then we clinch down in the red zone, and that's not happening. And that didn't happen against the Ravens. That touchdown ended up being a really big deal. The other huge aspect of that game was special teams. They ran right in, I think it was pretty well unblocked. Guy runs in and gets a block on Jordan Berry and then picks it up and runs it in for a touchdown. That was so maddening because when we scored 14 points at the end of the game, you take that touchdown away and it's a tie game. We possibly play for overtime. Did we deserve to play for that overtime? Probably not with how poorly we played through 3.5 quarters of football. But it would have been a whole different story. We would have had a chance to win that game in the end, I think. But poor special teams play week in and week out. We can't get a kickoff returns past the 20 or 30-yard line. We're not making plays in the kickoff return game. Special teams tackling hasn't been kind of poor. You see a lot of returners, making it to the 40 or 50-yard line, putting our team and our defense in tough situations. Special teams has just been mediocre at best. I think, the best special teams player for us has been Jordan Berry. The guy's been absolutely excellent this year. That's kind of refreshing to see that we have a good punter for once. But we're not making plays on special teams, and we're not playing smart on special teams, and then we're making stupid mistakes on special teams, like the block punt, that just further hinder this team from having any kind of success. It's absolutely ridiculous. Danny Smith needs to get that stuff under wraps. This has been something that's not just this season. It's been going on for season after season after season. Mediocre special teams play. We'll talk about the Cowboys game now. I hate even thinking about this game. That is one of the most maddening games I think I've watched in recent years. I mean, probably since watching the loss in the Super Bowl against the Packers. I'd rank it right up there. I thought the offense played absolutely great. Now, the coaching in that game, highly questionable. Why are we going for 2-point conversions constantly? I can see the one at the beginning of the game. They've had some success with that when they've gotten a touchdown on an opening drive and they do the 2-point conversion attempt. They've had some success with that in the past. I understand that. I like them being aggressive offensively. Sometimes a 2-point conversion can be demoralizing to the defense. You know, it's kind of like rubbing their nose in it. Like, we just scored on you. We just scored a touchdown. Now we're going to rub it in your face and score 2 more points on top of that. So it has kind of a psychological effect, in my opinion. But you can't be doing it every single time to the point that you're having to do 2-point conversions to try and make up for the multiple missed 2-point conversions that you had before. Those were points that were left on the board. You know, Boswell could have kicked extra points. He's a pretty decent field goal kicker. Just let Boswell kick those extra points and you have more points on the board towards the end of the game, and you're not having to try and score touchdowns to win it. You know, maybe you have a chance to kick a field goal to tie it or a field goal to win it instead of having to score touchdowns just to get the lead. Absolutely maddening football game. The defense could not contain Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, they did. It was like weird because they had spurts where they had good run defense and they got after Ezekiel Elliott and they were physical with him. You know, they were hitting him hard. They weren't letting him run over them. But then they'd have a play where they let him run for like, there was the passing play, the leg screen, I think, that they threw out to him, and he takes off for like 83 or 84 yards, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Excuse my language, but that's what it was like for me. I mean, I'm like, you got to be kidding me with this. I was screaming at my TV. It's those kinds of plays. I mean, just the week before, they let Mike Wallace do kind of the same thing. Kind of a similar type of play. And then you have Ezekiel Elliott doing the same thing, another 80-yard, pathetically easy touchdown. Now, I loved it because I have Ezekiel Elliott on my fantasy team, so, you know, it was a great game for me because I actually have Ezekiel Elliott, and then I traded for Le'Veon Bell. So they both had monster games and gave me a ton of fantasy points. But at the end of the day, I want my Steelers to win rather than my fantasy football to win. Fantasy football is just something that's fun for me. And I don't want to watch Ezekiel Elliott run all over my team. So, you know, they couldn't contain him. And at the end of the game, 42 seconds left, beautiful fake spike by Roethlisberger to Brown, you know, passing touchdown to take a 1-point lead. And I'm on such a euphoric high at that point. I'm jumping around my living room. I'm dancing and stuff. My wife's looking at me like I'm a crazy man. And I'm like, there's 42 seconds, you know, like I'm like, the defense, I think they can close this out, and I should have known better. Because it was, of course, the defense completely fails to contain Ezekiel Elliott. They start off okay. They're giving up stuff underneath. We need to keep them out of field goal range because, once again, we tried for a 2-point conversion and failed. They didn't do that. And then on a short pass, and I don't even remember who the receiver was that caught the ball in that play, but short pass, you know, all they need to do is get the guy on the ground. He's already being tackled. Sean Davis runs up and face masks the guy. It's like, I just knew right then and there that we were going to lose the football game. I mean, I had a feeling in my gut anyways that something bad was going to happen. I wanted them to win so bad because, number one, I can't really stand the Cowboys. Number two, like, my entire wife's side of the family is all Cowboys fans. And they all are from Texas. They're diehard Cowboys fans. So I knew if we lost this game, especially in epic fashion, the way we did, I was going to get ribbed about it. And I'll probably, around Christmas and stuff this year, get absolutely lit into about the Steelers losing to the Cowboys. I can hardly wait. So thanks for that, guys, for sucking it up and losing that game in the worst fashion possible. But, you know, right after that, they're already in field goal range, and then Dallas rubs our nose in it by running a running play to Elliott, and nobody even tries to tackle the guy. He just runs right up the left hash for a touchdown, 20-some or 30 yards, something along those lines. I just yelled. It was like pure rage. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me with this. Like, that's just the theme of this game. You've got to be kidding me. So many lead changes. I mean, a good game to watch, a competitive game, but just stupid mistakes by our own team that cost us this game. Bad coaching decisions, going for all the 2-point conversions, the defense not able to minimize big plays, giving up the big plays. I mean, they played so well in stretches, and then they'd give up a big play, and it just negated everything good that they did. Because when you give up those big plays, it doesn't matter what else you're doing good. You're losing games at the end of the day. So, other thing I kind of want to talk about with the Steelers, there seems to be this kind of disconnect going on in the locker room. Now, I do think that the media is taking a lot of liberties with their stories, saying, "Oh, Roethlisberger said this. There must be some type of feud going on between Roethlisberger and Tomlin, and Antonio Brown and Tomlin, because Tomlin called them out and this and that, or Ben is calling out Tomlin, or Antonio Brown didn't listen to Tomlin, or like at the end of the Dallas game, people were criticizing Antonio Brown from running out of bounds. He wasn't going to get the touchdown. Who cares? I don't want him to get hurt because he's trying to fight for an extra yard when we've already lost the game. He wasn't going to run it in there. So why would you want your best offensive player outside of Roethlisberger to get hurt on a meaningless play? I mean, we had no chance there. We had no chance. He had the ball, I think, around the 30 or the 20. There were 2 Dallas players there, I think, in the frame. He wasn't going anywhere. The one guy was right on top of him and was going to push him out of bounds anyways. So why would you want him to run out of bounds or to try and fight for a few extra yards there? What if he twists his ankle or something, and then we're without Brown? Because that's our luck this season. Everybody gets hurt. I don't think there's this great divide between the players, but I do think there's something there. I do think something is not quite right with these guys. I don't know what it is. I think a lot of it is just we're losing football games right now, and we're losing them in a demoralizing fashion, and things need to get better. And I think the way that we do get better and we do get rid of that divisiveness or this supposed rift in the locker room is to start winning football games, to build up that confidence again and that trust in one another. I mean, that's what a team is. It's trust. It's chemistry. When you're losing games, you're going to, and in the way that the Steelers are losing games, you're going to lose that chemistry. Everybody's going to be miserable. They've got to come together. They've got to come together, and they've got to start to string together some wins. We need to see more success in all 3 phases of the game, not just the offense playing well one week and the defense playing terrible. They need to both play good together. They need to complement each other, basically. Special teams, same thing. They need to step it up. I don't know how Danny Smith still has a job at this point. The special teams has not been good, and it hasn't been good for years. I don't normally call for coaches' heads. I don't believe in that. I believe in the Steeler way. I believe in consistency with your coaching staff. But sometimes you got to put your foot down, and Danny Smith, in my opinion, my personal opinion, for as much as that's worth, hasn't been that great this year, and hasn't been that great in years past either. So I think they should strongly be considering making a change in that department. All in all, this team's not good right now. I know Ezekiel Elliott after the game was quoted as saying that the Steelers were the best team he'd played against so far. That's all fine and dandy when you're saying nice compliments after the game. 4 weeks in a row of losing says otherwise to me. Just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit, maybe vent my frustrations a little bit about the past couple of weeks. We're on to the Browns, and I hope that we kick the crap out of them, as usual, which is usually what happens. The Browns are winless. But honestly, my confidence isn't there. I mean, it's in the past, I mean, you could almost, you had full confidence that the Steelers would beat the Browns head to head. Even when the Browns were halfway decent or average, and they've played some tough games with us in past seasons, but right now we should be straight stomping on them. They're winless, but my confidence isn't there. We play down to our competition a lot at times. We play mediocre or below average against teams that are, below 500. That needs to get better. We need a stomping of the Browns this week. So I hope Tomlin and company get things fixed, and I hope everything gets better for us in Steelers Nation before we all have to get committed to insane asylums. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast today. I'll try to do them every so often. I want to at least try and keep you guys engaged, give you something to listen to, at least something to distract us from how bad this team's been so far this year. Hopefully this back half of the season everything gets better. Maybe we win the division or make it into the playoffs again. And I don't see a Super Bowl in this season, but I hope that we can have positives at the end of the season and build going into next season, because we're supposed to have a lot of cap space next year. So hopefully we can better this team, maybe get a good pass rusher. So take it easy, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you like Steelers Xtreme and these podcasts, like us on YouTube, or give us a like on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You can also check us out over on the forum, SteelersXtreme.com. The podcasts are there as well on the main page. So have a good day, guys.